All right, so today I was thinking I was going to explore more patterns to try to break out of the same box kind of patterns, because I was playing with that yesterday and that was kind of interesting. So, and you know, I think the guy that basically is doing that in like the jazz world, see, I forget his name, but he's the gypsy jazz guy. I think he's a, you know, I don't know. I'm not an expert on, but you know, I'm watching these gypsy jazz guys, and he's the French guy. I think he was like, you know, after World War II or something, or at that time, so he hurt his fingers. So then he only had these two fingers, and so then it's like, but he still became like the best jazz guy of the place. So it's like, what would you do if you only had those two? So I was playing with that, and that leads to different lines. So now I'm thinking, going along that kind of idea, I was going with 2 notes per string, which I could go backwards and forwards with 2 notes per string, which is neat. But I don't really need to be in key, because I'm thinking that gypsy jazz guy wasn't really, I mean, I don't need to be like in a scale. I could be in key without a scale and then just follow the pattern in multiple different ways. So I'm assuming like what if that French guy, instead of injuring these 2 fingers, like for example, he was flipping off the Nazis or whatever, and somehow injured like these 2 fingers or something, and then he still became the best gypsy jazz player, but this time in an alternative world, it didn't stop him, but this time he had these 2 fingers and he did these, and he was still the best player and could play the best, and while sticking out his tongue at the Nazis at the same time, right? So no, like he's still rocking. So you know what I mean? So that would lead to a different kind of, I don't really know. I'm guessing I should look up the history there more. But I'm listening to this, some of these guys that do the gypsy jazz like today, and they seem to be copying this pattern of the 2 finger, which is actually quite effective now that I look at it. And I think that could like break up the way you'd want to play, right? So I'm thinking, what if I played like a wide pattern, because I had only like, what if I'm thinking like only these 2 fingers and I'm playing like a wide pattern, and I thought maybe I'd play around with different patterns like that. Like I'd go like this way, and then maybe I could go down in the same collection, but maybe just do these 2, and I always do the wide pattern, so that will get me outside the box, right? So now I'm not really looking to be in the same scale. I'm just like thinking, let's just do the wide pattern like that or something, right? And that might be, and then, you know, just to get a rhythm, and then it would be out here. And then here. That's interesting, because this would be here, right here. So now see how so that gets me kind of outside of this box. This is where the normal box would be. But now my rule is I'm going to just play every note on this line, because that line's all in my shape, and then I'm going to go to the pinky outside. So I know this is kind of wonky. I haven't done this before. This is... And then what if I did that like this way? Like I was like, okay, I can also say I'm gonna do the same pattern, making it go back, but I'm gonna go from pointer to pinky every time. So I'm gonna take it back a string each time. I'm just looking for new patterns. This may not work great. I'm just kind of playing with it, saying, well, what if I did? I'm gonna skip a note in the node, right? I'm gonna go back to each shape in the pattern. Let's just do those right there. So now I'm gonna do what I would normally play as a pointer to pinky pattern, and then go back. Every time I go down a string, I'm going to go back to the next note in the collection to a pointer to pinky pattern. Now, when I think of a pointer to pinky pattern, that means that it's either going to be a spread of 4, or it could be a spread of 5, of 1, 2, 3, 3 or 4, right? It's 3 notes away, or it could possibly be 4 notes away, depending on if there's 2 whole steps, or typically there's a whole step and a half step, right? So here I got a 3-note distance, and here I have a 4-note distance. So it's not exactly symmetrical on my pointer to pinky, so it's a little wonky to kind of do it, but I was like, all right, what if I tried that? Harder than you'd think. We're repeating some notes here because obviously I'm going from, if I do that, I go from 6 to 1 and then I repeat the 1. So maybe that's not the best way to go. So, because it repeats the 1, but that's kind of interesting at the same time. So now I'm using a finger he wouldn't have. I'm trying to, it's hard not to use a middle finger, so I'm going to use the middle finger now to give it a little flavor. Let's try going the other way. My fingers are hurting already. So let's say I try to do a wide shape and I try to push it up diagonally this way. So I'm thinking that if we had all of our fingers, then what we could do, because obviously what we tend to do in our normal hand shape is stay right here with it. Like these are my two, obviously I think these are the two fingers that most people are most comfortable with, right? That's the hammer-on finger. So if I lost these two fingers, that would be a problem, right then. But you could still, but your patterns would probably be totally unique, right? so you probably could do something kind of interesting with it if that happened, and you somehow didn't get totally depressed of playing the guitar, but because you'd be like on your own finger wise, you'd be like, all right, I'm just gonna do something totally different here. So, but I'm thinking like in the middle here, we're usually doing like. So I'm thinking if we mix that up, because if you do a wide shape, then that's going to take you out of key. That's going to take you out of a normal pattern, but like a scale. But if you were to switch between that the playing up and down and then playing like with the two finger pattern, then like up here, then right then, and then you switch to the wide finger pattern. You don't have to switch keys, and that would be a substantially different kind of feel, you would think. That's what I'm thinking anyway. I'm just thinking out loud. Practice session. So then I can throw in the two finger, the two note per shape pattern, which is basically walking up the scale. If I bring it back this way, and I could just mix those up. So now I can just mix those three things together to kind of like I'm always thinking kind of like I'm in a drum circle, and then I'm just switching the pattern. So these are all things that are in the same key, same pattern that I know, but I'm just kind of switching up the rhythm by pretending I'm missing fingers. It's kind of a gruesome way to do it, but so if I would be okay if they cut my finger, I'd still be okay because I can be like, whatever, dude. I'll be like. Let's try that from a different position. So if I'm going back, wait, let me try going the other way. So systematically, let's think about this systematically. Oh no, he's going to overthink it now. Yes, that's what I do. I overthink it. Okay. Like if we were to break down diagonal patterns, I could do like a 2-note per string leaning backwards, 6, 7, 1, and that would be working in the scale. 3, 4, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could do that. I can do a 2-note per string lean forward pattern, but that won't be going through the scale. Be going this way. And that's the one that walks into these 2 close steps if I start like right there. Okay. And then, so I didn't really do that yesterday that much. Like I walked up this way, but this is walking down the box. If I don't play the same strings in the box, then this one would go here, this way. So he probably didn't do it that way because he probably wanted to walk down this box because that's the tightest shape for the fingers. But let's say we just do 2 notes per string. So that's one way I can do it. I can walk down the box like that. But let's say I do it this way. Boom, 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 boom. All right, wait a sec. I go there, there. Let's go here, here, and then here, here, and then here, here. Something like that. It's a little bit different than what I was doing. So where are my other glasses? In my other glasses. Ugh. All right. Okay. So let's say we did, so I can do that going this way. Let's say I did the long shape going this way. So now I'm going to do 3 notes per string, leaning forward, try to walk up the neck this way. Let's just do those. See what that feels like. So now I can go long shapes. One way at a time. Let's go down first, and then I'll go up. I'm going to try to go backwards now. When I go backwards, I can actually reach with my pinky. So I can actually spider that back. So that was 2 notes going forward. That's 3 notes. So 3. I was trying to do this. I got. So then what I could do that from further back. Let's try that basic pattern from here. So I have 2 notes per string from any starting point, leaning back, leaning forwards, a distance of 3, pointer to pinky, leaning backwards and forwards. And then there's a lot of variations in terms of how you do the switches, because like this one, like if I stay here for a second, I could jump my finger up, or I could just roll my finger down and slide it up. So let's try doing that. Let's try doing that from a step back. So I'll do a long start from here, running it forwards, which seems to be a little bit more difficult for me. So we'll go like this. And yeah, I could start from a lower string down and do the same shape too, but let's just try the top strings. That's a long distance. Let's put this one out here. So my two fingers. That's all I need. That's all I need. And I still rock better than you. I tell you. Okay. Do your worst. I have. So, I don't know. It's a little. I think I can make it work. Yeah, I don't know. I'll keep on going with that. Maybe after the jump. I also I watched the new Pendragon one, so I'll do my Pendragon cycle review since not many people have access to the Daily Wire, or I don't know how many people have access to it, but I don't not as many people as Netflix. So it's my movie review opportunity for me to break in to the market of movie reviews. I'll try to get the imagery up here. So I wish they'd do more of them, but I don't see how the business model works. So I kind of get it that they couldn't. They kind of Jeremy Boring's doing his own thing out there. I don't see how he would. You'd have to get you'd have to get a stockpile up of these kind of before you get people coming in for something other than politics, I would think. But I don't know. It would have been cool. But it didn't seem totally plausible to me. But what do I know? I don't. All right. I'm complaining about AOC. If you're not in America here, she's the top contender for the next presidential election on the Democratic side. She seems to be being coached by the communist Bernie Sanders in the arts of the failed state tactics of communism. And so she's out there, but she doesn't sound all that on point in actual live presentation. I think she's got a real problem. If she goes off of TikTok and has to do the live talking stuff, that doesn't typically go well. It seems to me that's the general thing. So we got on the Democratic side, I think I'm going for Rubio. I think he would be good. But on the Democratic side, you got AOC is being backed by the communist Bernie Sanders, and then you got and then you've got my governor over here, Newsom, who's very slick, but not exactly honest. I would say something like that. So I think he's actually worse than AOC. So that's what I got. So she went to somewhere and gave some talks which seemed a little bit out of whack. So that's the general gist. Let me get I wonder if, okay, this is gonna work this time. All right, let's see. Okay. AOC is making headlines. AOC is making headlines, which is not good because headlines make me look old, you know? I mean, and how in the world are you supposed to not scratch your face when someone is talking about global issues that sound like they were assembled out of like a buzzwords and vibes, man? It's we're gonna have like 5-second TikTok meme basically presidency. It's gonna be even worse than the tweeting. You know, it's gonna be bad. My forehead doesn't even ask permission anymore. It just folds automatically. For crying out loud. Stop with the headlines. You're giving me headlines. So I'm going to try laughing instead. All you can do is laugh this stuff off, the politics, man, because if there has to cause me headlines, if this stuff has to cause me headlines, I'd prefer they be from laughing face rather than scrunched up confused face, right? Those are more attractive lines. Laugh lines are attractive. Confusion lines look like you're buffering. That's not good. You confuse everyone. Everyone gets nervous around you. If you're laughing, at least some people might not take offense to it, and it's not quite as bad. So, and remember, this is the top U.S. presidential contender right here, AOC, possibly the top candidate for president of the United States. That's not AOC. AOC's that lady, but I don't know. Chat gave me that image because Bernie Sanders backing her. She's being tutored in the fine art of failed communism by Bernie Sanders himself, who would himself be the front runner for the Democratic Party if he wasn't older than Methuselah, even if Methuselah was still alive, you know, at this point in time. So take this line, for example. Here's a beauty line that we need to analyze here for a second. Hold on. There's no audio.
Probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires I have ever met or seen or witnessed. Which, you know, you can probably even glean that from watching these people on TV. Anyways, all of that is to say is that they don't do their homework. Clearly, like, they're putting 19-year-olds in at the Treasury. This dude is not smart.
Okay. So she's talking about Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not smart. Now, okay. Elon Musk, you know, he's such a moron. That's the attack line. That's the attack line. Dude, that's it. Go back out doing NASA at making rockets, you loser, dummy. SpaceX is basically like the stupid class people have to go to when they're too dumb to hang with the rest of us in like normal class, you know? They're like the dunce class over there, the retard class. I guess you could say that now. He's a retard. The funny thing is that there are so many ways to criticize Elon Musk. I mean, if you want to go after Elon Musk, I mean, there's a lot of angles that you could take, you know? It's not that hard. The man generates content hourly. You could dig something up. But picking the one angle that just doesn't land at all is impressive. I mean, I don't know how you... So, like, once Elon Musk reaches Mars, she's going to be like, see? Look, I knew it. He's the dumbest guy on the whole planet Mars, which has a population of 1, you know? It's like... I understand politicians look for good lines, but I don't think this one lands either. This is the line she's trying to. I think she's trying to make this one go viral. No one's really even picking up on it because it so doesn't quite work. Hypocrisy is vulnerability. That's the line. Let's hear it in action. Hypocrisy is vulnerability.
To democracy, I think what we identify is that in a rules-based order, hypocrisy is vulnerability. And so I think what we are seeking is a...
Okay. So again, I see it like it rhymes, and that's cool. You know, I get that. But it doesn't... it just doesn't quite work. I mean, no one even picked up that that's her catch line. She's trying to make that thing. I know it, like, she's trying to make that work because it's got the rhyme in it. But I don't think this line makes sense, really, because I feel like she says it because, obviously it rhymes. It's like trying to borrow the Tucker Carlson line when he tried to make global homo a thing. Global homo, is like, it doesn't quite even rhyme, but that was almost more tricky. It's like sneaky. You get global homo kind of rhymes, but still, no, that didn't quite work either. But it doesn't. Hypocrisy is vulnerability. That may rhyme, but the cadence is off. There's not the right kind of syllables in it. You can't make a song with that line without. You got to do some poetic syllable smithing or something like that to make it work. What is it? Hypocrisy is vulnerability. See, there's the different levels of syllables. You need to get like the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is vulnerability. Having hypocrisy is vulnerability. Hypocrisy is vulnerability. Hypocrisy. I don't know. It just doesn't flow, even though it rhymes. I don't know. Something's not right with it. I don't think this woman makes any sense. But hey, she's still better than Gavin Newsom. That's what her line should be. If Newsom wins, it will prove that hypocrisy is not, in fact, always vulnerability, right? So I think a better line for AOC is like, hey, at least I'm less of a nuisance than Newsom. AOC to 2028. At least I'm less of a nuisance than Newsom. That's your line. That will stick. If I had a choice between the two of you and you pulled out that line, I'm with you on that one. Let's skip the song. Let's try to go with my what did I do? Oh, my Daily Wire. I looked at because I have the subscription to the Daily Wire, so I have the Pendragon. So I'll give my quick review, probably quick. Let me see. So this is like, what is this? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th episode. So I don't know. So this one, Brett Cooper's in it. They've been teasing us with Brett Cooper this whole time because she like shows up, but she doesn't talk. So that's kind of cool to see her in it. So let's see. This one was more focuses in on the Merlin character and Merlin's backstory, which is kind of interesting because I don't think we have a lot of Merlin backstory when he's younger and whatnot in the traditional Merlin tales. He usually shows up when he's old, except in the BBC version, they had a young Merlin, but young Merlin was at the same age as Arthur, which didn't really make sense. Like the BBC didn't do their own thing that well, it seemed like, because that's not how that does. But so they had that, but that I don't think that really counts as like actual like canon or whatnot. So we don't have much. So they had some leeway to kind of play with young Merlin, and they say that young Merlin, of course, needs to be like this ancient guy. So they basically say he's got Avalon blood in him, although it's also a little bit more confusing because the first guy, we guess he's from Avalon, who live longer, so they're kind of like elves, But so we have that there, and then so his back. So then it's kind of interesting because I think this guy is actually a better actor, in my opinion. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I mean, I feel like he's like up until now, most of his stuff was like pretty much being like a stoic guy. So maybe it wasn't that difficult, but this time he had to do like, he had a romance thing. I don't think there might be spoilers here, but I don't think this is the kind of story where it's like it's like all the stories these days are like, what do they call them? Mystery boxes. This isn't like a mystery box story. You kind of, it's not like which I think is good because the mystery box thing is stupid because once they reveal the thing in the mystery box, it's always dumb. So I'd rather have a predictable storyline that makes sense than a dumb mystery box that reveals nothing. Like I watched Lost for 12 episodes and then none of the things that they led on happen. I find that to be annoying. although it was still kind of entertaining for a while. But now I'm over it. It's been they've done that too many times. I feel cheated. So anyways, so I think so he's got a romance with Brett Cooper, and so that's a little different for the so he is already kind of young looking, but then he goes back in history a long ways, but he still looks young because he's got like the elf, not the elf blood, the Atlantean blood. And so they do. So then that totally kind of deviates from anything I know about the Merlin, the actual Arthur story, because I don't, even though I'm not an expert, so now they're kind of in their own thing as they track that bit. And I do think it's a little bit better that this guy, I think, is a better actor than the two guys playing the brothers for Arthur's dad and his brother, right? Uther Pendragon and his brother. They look the part. Those two guys look good, but I don't feel like they're quite as good. They're kind of I don't know. They don't seem to have quite the charisma. This guy, I think, is, a little bit better, just in my estimation. So he does a pretty good job there. And so then, let's see. So there's the romance thing, and then there's like it's basically his origin story, because the first part of this episode was him as an older guy, even though he looks the same because he's got like elf qualities where he's always young. But now we're going back to the history. So there was drama with him meeting this guy who got all mad at him and basically almost killed his friend and whatnot. And so now we're like, why was that dude all pissed at him? And now we're going back to the backstory. So it's like Merlin's origin story, where he hang out, like he grew up like with the actual little people of the hills of Britain, which kind of reminds you of kind of like, I don't know, like a Scotland or something like that at this time, you would think, because they're Celtish is the general idea, because they keep playing music that reminds me of like Celtic music. In particular, it almost seems like they're ripping off pretty closely the Braveheart music. So I think that's clearly, somewhat, it's clearly intentional to try to kind of give you those vibes, it seems to me. So they have that. So now he's part of the land because he's basically hanging with these almost mystical kind of group of people that are, the dwarf type people of the land, I guess. And so then that's kind of how he grows up, and he gets like the mystical knowledge, but it's still somewhat kind of pagan and whatnot. And then he meets Brett Cooper, who's hunting a pig at the time. She's like a badass. But not like the modern Marvel bat, like that crazy. But she's basically she took down a pig by herself on a horse with a spear, which was pretty. I felt like that's pretty impressive. I don't think that's not easy to do. So I was like, wow. So anyways, so then there's like, and it's, so this is a spoiler here, but I think it's pretty obvious given the fact that he keeps on having visions of Brett Cooper, but Brett Cooper never talks, that some tragedy happened in the past, in his origin story. So now we get to go back and see the tragedy. So obviously they're going to get together. It's like the Braveheart thing, because I think this whole book is setting up Merlin's next books. So it's actually, the whole book, I think, is actually kind of a setup for the rest of the story. So it would have been cool if he could keep going on it, so I think it's more so Merlin's origin story is going to be that he was like married to Brett Cooper here, and then of course the Saxons kill Brett Cooper, right? And that's going to be and then he goes on like a rampage, of course, at that time, because he's got special powers and whatnot. And the symbology, the only thing that I think really kind of harkens back to the Bible on this one is like he keeps playing the lyre thing, which is like a kind of harp or guitar, which is like what I think that's supposed to reflect David, King David. And then so he was playing that. And then when he starts going on his rampage to avenge Brett Cooper, like the lyre falls out of the horse's saddle. So I think from a mirroring standpoint that it's mirroring his low point in his arc, which I think from a biblical standpoint would mirror King David's low point, which I guess would be Bathsheba, like sending the guy out to die and whatnot. So I think they're trying to mirror that with the harp thing falling off, and then everybody trampled it, and everything's clearly he's gone too far. And then and that's kind of the general thing on it. So it was outside the normal Arthur narrative. So they were kind of on their own here, but it was pretty, like, just from a normal like Netflix standpoint show. I think it had everything that you would expect, because it had the love scene, which again that's not my whole. So the first half of it was like the love thing, that whole thing, which is fine, but that's kind of like the first part of Braveheart, where you're like, okay, can we get the movie started here? I know she's gonna die, and that makes me feel that I don't have to feel bad that he goes and kills everyone. I know how it works. That's how it works. So can't we just? So then we go. So then that happens, and then she dies, and then I don't feel as bad when he goes out and kills everyone. That's the thing. So then, so we had that, and then of course he had there's a couple different fighting scenes in it that were pretty good. I thought they were pretty good. They used like music that's kind of with his wonky powers that almost sounds like, I think that show no, not Heroes. It was, what was it? All the people had special powers, and the FBI guy was like searching for him and stuff. I don't know what it was. I forget. But that wonky sound, like almost a space sound, which I get it, but it also it makes me feel a little, that sound, I don't know, I associate it with kind of weird, like it is supposed to be weird, but it's like almost sci-fi weird to me. I don't know. But it had, it had the fight scenes in it. It had, Merlin did pretty good. And, this was the part of the love story. And again, I think it's like his origin story to support now going forward. But I think there's only 1 or 2 episodes left. So really this whole book, I think, like I say, was kind of a prep book for the most part for the rest of the series. So we'll see what happens in the final 1 or 2 episodes. I don't know. I think there's only, but yeah, I thought it was good. I'd like to see more. I don't think the Daily Wire is going to do it, because I still can't believe they did this much, because it doesn't seem to fit their business model to me. I watch them for the politics, but this one was pretty, I would totally watch it. But I'm not sure other people would. I'm not sure they'd go to the platform just for that, unless they cranked stuff out like Mass. But whatever. All right, that's my review. Back to this. I got the wrong name here with King David's. I get them all mixed up. Did I get the wrong name? I don't know. Whatever. So now I'll try doing this from the next string down. So I'm going to go back to 2 notes per string and the lean back shape because that seems to feel good to me. So now I'm going to go down here and try this string and then lean it back. 2 notes per string. It's the most comfortable as I wind down my session. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, and then 1, 2. So now I can go diagonally down this way. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. That's my buzzy note. Ah. So now I'll do the top and then the bottom. So now.